Hello and welcome to a new session on Marketing and Advertising Research Part 1. I am Nipunika Shahid, Assistant Professor, Amity School of Communication, Amity University. And our subject expert today is Ms. Simrit Gulati with nearly 3 decades of experience in advertising, marketing, consumer behavior and PR, and has been teaching as guest faculty in AJK MCRC, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Advertising and market research, as it is so dynamic and so much a part of our daily life and happenings. Companies and individuals spend crores of rupees every year on the marketing and advertising of their goods and services. Marketing and advertising for their product or brand, for themselves and social messages and ideas. A doubt that often crops up in their mind is, have I taken the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Will my product or brand work? Is my money being used well? Am I getting my money's worth? Marketers have their own set of issues and doubts. Will my product or brand work with the consumer? Is the price acceptable? Is the name and packaging suitable and attractive? And so on the list continues. Similarly, the advertising professionals have issues that trouble them. Will this ad work? Will the audience like the ad and understand it? Is it going to be a successful campaign? Are we using the correct ways of reaching the people? Now the question arises that how can we find a solution to all these problems of the clients and the professionals? The answers to all this is in the study of today's topic. Yes, the subject of marketing and advertising research. Research is a systematic inquiry on a specific topic with the aim of reaching some conclusions or discovering reasons, causes or trends. So we find that before we take important marketing and advertising decisions, we need to do different kinds of research to guide us in our decision making. Research is based on information collected. It can be in terms of numbers, statistics or data, or it can be in subjective terms like trends, descriptions or behavior. In the case of market and advertising research, one important thing we need to understand in the beginning itself is that this research is to do with people, be it users or consumers or customers. So, we research humans and their thoughts, beliefs and preferences. To start any research or a project in research, we would have to first state our objective or aim for carrying out the research. What are we looking for? What is the aim? What kind of information do we need? Is there anything lacking in our present situation to which we need to add, and so we need to carry out research for that? So, after defining the objective, we have to get into the study to get answers to our questions and queries. For this, we will need to collect information and data. There are two sources available for getting the information and data. Firstly, we can dig into reports, data or papers available in libraries, on the internet or with market and media research and other monitoring agencies. Studies and research already done or done for some other requirements. Also, Government and private bodies or organizations collect and publish data and reports on a regular basis to measure and foretell economic trends and indicators. We have reports from government agencies like NCAER, economic surveys, census reports, and from industry bodies like FICCI, CII. Market research agencies like AC Nielsen and international companies like PwC or KPMG publishing regular marketing and economic reports which we use. Regular reports like IRS, Indian Readership Survey, or NRS, National Readership Survey, or consumer indexes or consumer moods and trends reports are other sources that we use. So, we can use the results to suit our needs and requirements. We can look at trends indicated in these reports or the conclusions drawn from the data and information in these reports, or maybe carve out some information from it or use some or any part of the information available to fit with our needs. Secondly, we have the option of carrying out our own study or survey to get the answers we are looking for. If we do not find information that already exists or is available, then we think of doing our own hunting for answers and plan out the whole process of how to obtain the answers. We would be getting the answers firsthand. This is the first thing to understand about research. We have two sources of data and information. The first is the secondary data, where we are using the information already existing and tweaking it to our needs. The second is the primary data or information and research results which we obtain by doing our own research. First-hand information which we get by designing and conducting a research study of our own and suited to our needs and objectives. From here starts a journey of understanding this whole process of research for marketing and advertising. Next, what we find is that the data, information and trends that are available or we collect for ourselves is in two forms. Or should we say that the research results that we use, whether primary or secondary, will be available to us in two forms. One is a very tangible and measurable form in terms of numbers and statistics, telling us conclusive numbers in percentages or quantities, and this is aptly called quantitative research or quantitative data. Surveys with questionnaires and direct queries will give us quantitative results which we can use for analysis or process further for deriving trends and projections. The number of researched units or respondents or the sample size, as we call them, can be quite large. Also, as data is easy to handle with so many computer softwares and apps available. Also, larger the sample, the more accurate or representative would be our results. The other method is where we are not looking at numbers or percentages, but rather for feelings, emotions, sounds and other non-numerical and unquantifiable elements. We are not measuring any quantities, but examining and concluding about trends, thoughts and feelings and responses in emotional and non-tangible terms. This is what is called qualitative research or qualitative data. Research where the quality and content of the answers and material collected matters, and we look at the underlying reasons for the emotions, beliefs, perceptions and mindsets of the people. So, this explains the kind of information we can collect in our research. The next thing we need to know is as to how to collect this information or the methods of data collection. How is the data or content collected in these kinds of research? We have different kinds of tools and methods available for conducting our research. questionnaire, interview schedule, observation method, group discussion, focus group, experiments. All these methods are very useful in our research. When we look at consumer choices of brands and preferences, suitability of brand name, acceptance of price, choice of color or taste or flavor, favorite model or advertisement, then in any of these we need to know the choice of the majority or quantity, so we collect this quantitative data using a questionnaire or carry out a survey using the questionnaire. Interview schedule or interview questionnaire is used for collecting information from senior people, decision makers or policy makers. It's used to get their views and projections, and the schedule is like a guideline for the matters to be discussed in the meeting, and we collect both qualitative and quantitative data from them. Observation method is where actual behavior of the people seen or observed. How they select items in a shop, what questions do they ask from a shopkeeper, response to an ad which they see. For all this, we use either a CCTV camera or recordings, or even get a person to observe. A good use that has been made of this method is to decide how to lay out or display items in a supermarket or shop. The most attractive and tempting items are placed at eye level, and the essentials and routine items are placed in corners and remote places. These routine items the consumer will search for and buy in any case, but these tempting ones have to catch the attention and need to be pushed to the consumer, so place them in a way that he will not miss out on them. Group discussion and focus group are used for collecting qualitative information from people. Discussions and moderated exchange of ideas and thoughts give us insight into what people think, their motivations and mindsets. With dialogue and exchange of views within a small group, we get to know what is going on in the minds of people and dig deep into their mind, at times discovering thoughts which even the people were not clear about, or it was in their subconscious mind. Experiments, like the name indicates, are the testing or trying of new ideas. So again, for brands and products, we can try out which name is liked better, or which flavor is preferred, or choice of color or fragrance. In advertising also, we experiment with models or jingles or ads or celebrities. With these tools, we are able to collect information which is used for decision making in the marketing and advertising planning. All ideas are tested and confirmed before putting them into action, and this way we are more certain that they will work and succeed. Let us look at some examples. To test the effect of an advertisement, it is published in the newspaper in one area and not in another area, and then the response is compared. Did more inquiries come or more sales take place in the area where the ad was seen? If yes, then the ad is working. For testing new products or brands, we do its test marketing. That new brand or product, like say a brand of biscuit or a new soup or new flavor of ice cream, is sold in only a particular or limited area or market for a few weeks or even a few months for testing it. The consumer's response to it is measured in terms of sales or demand or preference or even recall of the item. If we find that there is a positive response, then the company thinks of introducing it in the entire market, or in this case all over India. At times, maybe a few changes may need to be made in response to the feedback from the test marketing experiment. Size, packaging or price or other things may be changed according to consumer needs and acceptance. This is an important research which is done, and it would be an experimental type along with the use of a survey or questionnaire. Now that we know what are the tools we have for conducting our research, we need to see how to plan out the research and apply these methods and tools. Any kind of research is done for knowing the mood, response or preferences of the people, and in this case our target market or target audience. Those set of people who are the probable users or are the typical kind of buyers of the item or ad that we are testing. For identifying the target, the marketers and advertisers have their own methods, and we in research have to test out this target set of people. We could test this entire set of people and go to each and every one of them and collect their responses. This is what is a census. Each and every member of the set of our target is researched or tested. This has its own limitations. The target set or the population of the target people will be a very huge number. Also, these would be spread out far and wide geographically and physically. Due to these two reasons, it would not be practical to test all the entire population. It would require a lot of effort, time and money to cover everybody. So, a census is an expensive proposition money-wise and resource-wise also. So, for this reason, we go in for sampling. What is sampling? Sampling is the selection of a subset or a smaller number of individuals from within a population selected to estimate characteristics of the whole population. We research this smaller set and presume that it represents the behavior of the entire population. So, what we gather from studying this set of people, we apply to the entire set or the population of the target market. Most of our studies and research is done using sampling, and we are able to use the result to project it as a trend for the entire population. For getting accurate results from this sample, we need to select it in a way that it represents the population, and we get valid results from the sample. So, we need to determine a sample size that would give us a representative result. We use statistical methods to determine the optimum sample size, and the details of it are beyond the scope of our study today. Once we have selected the sample size, then we have to look at ways of selecting this sample. Again, we have to ensure that our sample is including people of all kinds from the target, so that the sample is representative and our evaluation is correct. To achieve this, we have various sampling methods available which give us different options of selecting a sample based on the nature of the population and the kind of study and information we are looking for. Two basic ways of sampling are available to us: random or probability sampling. Random sampling method refers to a method in which every item in the universe or the population of the target segment has an equal chance of being selected. There is no bias to the data we collect. Non-random or non-probability sampling. The methods where the sampling units being selected are on the basis of personal judgment, convenience or ease of the researcher or field worker collecting the data is called non-probability sampling. Here, every member or element does not have an equal chance of getting selected. Personal choices and biases come into this kind of a sample. The kinds of random or probability sampling are simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling. The kinds of non-random or non-probability sampling are convenience sampling, quota sampling, purposive or judgmental sampling, snowball sampling. Random sampling is where we select samples or respondents totally at random, whether from the whole population or from segments or strata that we make. The idea being that any respondent has an equal chance of being selected. So, from simple random sampling, where we select the respondent arbitrarily, to stratified or cluster sampling, where we divide the population in segments or layers and then select at random or systematic sampling, where we decide to take samples at a fixed interval, the choices are many. Non-random sampling methods are those where the sample is collected by the researcher using his judgment. So, it could be at his convenience or depending on which respondent agreed to give a response, to his assigning a quota or a representation for different blocks or segments, to his judgment about who is suitable, to his getting references from respondents for other similar respondents, thus creating a snowball effect. These are the various methods available for selecting the sample, but here it has a bias or is not totally at random, though it will give us good information, as the respondents we will get will be most suitable and will give accurate information. Using any of these methods, we collect the information and the data and now need to process it. Processing would involve consolidating it and getting summations and conclusions from it. For doing this, we would need to follow statistical methods for tabulating the information and then deriving trends, inferences and conclusions from it. These inferences we would study using the statistical tools available, starting with the simple ones like mean, median or mode, and it could go on to measuring standard, deviation or skewness or testing of hypothesis. This gives us the final results of our research, or it is presented in the form of a research report. Once we have our research results or report available with us, then the marketing and advertising professionals use it for their planning and strategizing. Based on the conclusions of the research, we would prepare a list of recommendations. These recommendations would be used to make our marketing and advertising plans. Before we look into that, we must understand one important thing. Decision making and planning using the research results is always a very rational and logical process. All recommendations and proposals are based on the inferences we get from the research. Our planning is totally based on the trends, numbers and inferences we get from the research. So, for example, if the indication is that a vegetarian food item is preferred by most people as compared to a non-vegetarian one, then we will go in for the vegetarian one, even if we find that in some discussions the feedback was for a non-veg option also. But if our research numbers have shown veg, then we follow that and not our emotional or gut feeling. This is the importance and applicability of the research. So, whenever we carry out the research in marketing and advertising, we need to be very clear of our objectives or the aim of our research, and then use the sources of information, the tools and the methodology to achieve our aim. The whole research study is to be designed using the available tools and resources to reach our objective. So, today we have learnt about the many ways in which we can research and evaluate our marketing and advertising ideas. This helps us in being certain that things will work out in the market and our chances of failure are minimized. What we have studied today are the broad guidelines for research and how we use them specifically for advertising and marketing. We will see you in another session. Till then, namaskar and goodbye.